Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin with the opening statement from Coach Simmons on this past weekend and the upcoming game, and then open up to questions.
Right. Good morning, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well this fine Monday morning. Just to start out talking about last week's game. Again, like we stated on Saturday night, happy for the guys. Thought they played really hard, really well. Defensively played tremendous football. Other than one double move we bid on for a touchdown, but you take away that one play, I think we limit those guys to under 100 yards total offense. And so dominant effort by the defense. Special teams wise, I thought we did some really good things. And then offensively, for half a ball, I thought we played really solid. First half, we missed some opportunities, but came out the second half, settled down. Really was able to establish a solid run game, not dominant run game, but a solid run game that, again, kept Mississippi Valley off balance enough to allow us to expand our offense. And so really good to see that. Great to extend our winning streak to 13 games now here at Bragg. We don't play here for another month, so it was good to end the first 3 games on a positive note. And now we become road warriors. Got to show that we can play well on the road, and got a really, really stiff test and challenge this week going up to Orangeburg to Oliver C. Dawson Stadium to take on the South Carolina State Bulldogs, who obviously are the defending MEAC and Celebration Bowl champions. And so we know all about this team being MEAC rivalries for years, and Buddy Pugh's one of the best coaches out there, and we know he's going to have his team ready to play. And this is their first home game, so it should be a great crowd, a lot of excitement, and we're excited for the challenge.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned just winning at home, taking it on the road, and showing you guys can win on the road. What is the approach this week? I mean, this team can. How do you approach this week and making sure you take how you performed at home these last 3 weeks and taking that out on the road?
Well, the preparation really doesn't change. We'll still follow our same schedule. And the biggest thing is just making sure that the guys understand that we have to commit ourselves to starting fast and playing for 60 minutes. One of the luxuries of playing at home is the great home field advantage you get with your crowd and your fan base. And so in those moments where we may be dragging a little bit on offense or defense, you can get the crowd to get behind you. And on the road, you don't get that luxury. And so we have to be able to manufacture our own energy, our own enthusiasm, our own momentum. And that's the only really difference between being at home and being on the road. So again, our preparation will be the same. These guys have done a really good job of preparing the last few weeks, and that won't change. And we just have to put it all together in someone else's stadium. And we've done it in the past, and we have to show that we can do it again.
Coach, first of all, some that you have talked about a lot is you want your team to win on the road. Of course, during your tenure here, y'all are 8-6 on the road. 5 of those losses have come against FBS programs. Just tell me about as y'all go on the road for these next couple of weeks. Who will be the leaders? Who would you be calling upon to be the leaders of this team to kind of keep everything together?
Well, it's the same guys that have led us from the beginning. Isaiah Land, Xavier Smith, Christopher Duell, Jeremy, Musa, BJ Bowler. Those same guys that have really stepped up in those leadership roles, and Darius Fagan, and especially the ones who've been on the road with this team, who've gone and traveled and beat opponents in their backyards. A few of our losses have been in neutral site venues. And, so again, when we've gone to another stadium to play a school at the same level as ours, I think the only loss we've had is Howard back in 2018. So we've shown that we can beat MEAC and SWAC opponents in their stadiums. And we have to just continue to practice well and, again, put it all together come game day and commit ourselves to doing the little things right and play with the same effort and passion and enthusiasm we play here at Bragg. And I think we'll be just fine.
Keith Hadley, Fangs Up. Happy Founders Day, Coach. I noticed that we utilized the pistol a lot more this past game. Did we do that largely because the running backs, Jennings and McLeod, are bigger backs, and that gives them a little more momentum as they head to the line?
Oh yeah. Well, first, thank you for that, and yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a huge shout out to FAMU birthday today. So much love to the greatest university on the planet. But yeah, like you said, Terrell and Jalen are both big backs. Terrell's 230, Jay McLeod's 245, and they like to get their shoulders square and get downhill. So we've utilized a little bit more pistol in our offense, maybe than we have in the past with guys like Bishop Bonnet, those smaller backs. And we'll continue to do what we can to take advantage of their skill set. And but yeah, they like getting themselves downhill, and we maybe ran the ball a little bit better when we allowed them to do that, as opposed to turning their shoulders to the sideline and making them go east and west.
Coach, good morning. As much as we know about South Carolina State, the wins they had near the end of the season, being defending champs, Celebration Bowl winners, would you consider this a season-defining win for the Rattlers? You guys go in there and get this done.
Well, I think it's a critical game in our quest for postseason play. When you are potentially fighting for an at-large playoff berth, as we may be, if Jackson doesn't slip up twice, you need those quality wins. And so when you look at the fact that we've beaten one conference champ from last season in Albany State, we have a chance to play another conference champ this year in South Carolina State. I think that would, bode well for anyone that's critiquing this football team. And so going on the road, particularly, and beating a really good football team, who, in my opinion, will be right there in the mix again in the MEAC, I think it'll go a long way in establishing our football team as one of the best in the FCS.
Coach, just to digress a little bit, a lot is being said about our tour situation and concussions and with quarterbacks in particular. You played at that position. Can you talk a little bit about if too much is being made of the situation with concussion, not just in professional football, but in college football? And do you think there needs to be some more oversight in terms of, sort of like what you do with your guys? You don't let guys hang around, practice, or play games if they take big hits. So what's your spin on this?
Well, I don't know if there is a spin. I think player safety should always be our number one concern, whether it's professional, collegiate, high school, or even in my son's case, Pop Warner. So a concussion is one of the more serious injuries that you can sustain. We don't fully understand the long-term ramifications of concussions yet. The testing isn't as thorough as maybe ACL repairs or labrum tears and bone breaks and those type of things we've been dealing with for a long time. Oftentimes when we learn about concussion symptoms with CTE, it's after an individual has unfortunately passed away, when you can really do a thorough test of their brain. And so, again, there's a lot that we don't know and don't understand. So it's incumbent upon all of us as coaches, as trainers, as anyone who has a hand in this to make sure that we do everything we can to protect our athletes. They risk a lot. They know the risk. Everyone understands the risk involved with playing football. It's a collision sport, right? It's not a contact sport, it's a collision sport. And so, but they're trying to make the game safer. Equipment is getting better. Technology is getting better. But it's very difficult to prevent injuries, concussions, ACL tears, ankle sprains, breaks, and those type things because of the nature of the game. But the concussion is one of the more severe ones. So whenever we see someone with a concussion or symptoms of potential concussion, I think you err on the side of caution, as opposed to, maybe if you got a partially torn knee, you can still play with that partial tear, understanding that, hey, may not get worse. You have to battle a little bit of pain, but you can't hurt the knee worse. It's as bad as it's going to get. Well, with the brain injury, you can't say that. We don't know how much an impact will affect the player, short term or long term. And so, no, I don't think that we're making too much of it. Maybe we're not talking about it enough.
Morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning.
When you pop on the film, just what were some things you thought your guys did well against Mississippi Valley State? And it feels like there's been kind of a theme. Second half has been really when you guys hit your stride these past 3 wins. Is there anything to that? What have you noticed that's given you guys so much success and dominated the third and fourth quarters?
Well, what we're doing well offensively, I think we're throwing the ball extremely well. We're averaging close to 300 yards passing a game the last 3 weeks. Xavier Smith has 5 touchdown catches the last couple of weeks. I think 21 catches the last 2 games. And he's playing at a really high level. Jamaria Shareed has had 2 phenomenal games. And Jeremy's throwing the ball extremely well. We've done a pretty good job in pass pro. And so defensively, I mean, we played really, really good football, which we typically do here at home. And we've shown that over the last few years that we're very difficult to move the ball and score against consistently when we play here at Bragg. And so we're doing those things well. And then as far as the second half, we pride ourselves on our conditioning, and being a mentally and physically tougher football team. And I think our coaches have done a great job at halftime of going in and making adjustments. Football is a game that you plan during the week and prepare for what you think you're going to see from the other team. And sometimes teams come out and they don't show that. They may show something else, or they may have a few plays that you have not practiced. And so going into halftime, being able to make those adjustments, being able to fix any potential problems that you might have, and then putting a good plan together of attack for the second half is something that I think is critical when it comes to coaching. And I do commend my coaches for being able to go in and do that. The players have settled down, and then I think our conditioning level is taking over in the second half of many of those games. We're a lot fresher than the other teams are. Mississippi Valley had a few guys go down with cramps this past week, and we didn't have any. We hadn't had any really since I think game 1 or game 2. And so our guys have done a really good job of priding themselves on being the more conditioned team. And we'll need that as the season progresses, primarily going on the road with shorter numbers. We won't have as many guys dressed and travel on the road, obviously, as we have at home. So that's part of it. And so we have to see if we can have the same level of success traveling as we have over the last 3 weeks here at Bragg.
Coach, over the last couple of weeks, I've noticed that y'all executed very well. For the first time last week, y'all scored in y'all first drive of the game. Jeremy Musa, he also has going 2 consecutive games with no interceptions. Just tell me about kind of, you talked about a little bit, just tell me kind of how he has settled in with the offense and how he's progressing, in his first year with the team.
Well, I appreciate you jinxing us there, Gerald. Typically when people give stats like that, they always end up coming back to bite you. Hey, missed the field goal all season, then they missed the first field goal, right? So, but no, I think, he's really settling down. He's settling in as a quarterback. I think people kind of sometimes forget, and even us as coaches, that this is only his 5th start in this offense. He's a very smart guy, very talented, but he's only been in the offense for now a few months, 8, 9 months now. So it takes a while before you kind of figure out all the nuances that he can begin to think like I think. When I call a play, there's a reason I'm calling it. And sometimes we assume that he understands why and what we want him to do in that situation. So the more we can watch film together, the more we can go through those situations together. He, can understand exactly why I'm calling what I'm calling. I think he's going to get even better. And but he's playing really good football right now. He's obviously second in the league and passing behind Shedeur Sanders, and is really starting to get comfortable with his receivers. We talked in detail last week about what type of balls to throw certain receivers. We missed a few the week before, and he came out and made those adjustments Saturday. And we were much better on those quote unquote 50-50 balls because of the type of ball he's throwing. And so he's really coming into his own. He's a guy that really wants to learn. He's coming over later today on his day off to watch film. And that just shows the level of commitment that he has to be an elite quarterback. And so I think the more he gets comfortable, the more he settles in, the more he takes command of the offense, I think you're going to see even more output than Jeremy. And like you said, he's been protecting the ball, which is always the number one thing.
And then also, Coach, another thing while I was just looking up South Carolina State a few days ago, this game, like you say, it's not really a season definer, but it's a game, that kind of can help y'all extend y'all season. This game this weekend is going to be star-studded. I feel like it's going to be a good game. Both teams have four prospects each on ESPN's top 50 HBCU draft list. So just tell me about just going up against a decorated program like South Carolina State.
No, they definitely are. Coach Pugh has built a reputation of placing his players in the NFL. He's got arguably the top linebacker in the league right now, Shaquille Leonard. Javon Hargreaves is an all-pro. Jacoby Durant was a fourth-round draft pick last year, highest drafted guy among, I think, either highest or second highest guy coming out of HBCUs. And I think he's got at least 2 or 3 more guys. So if my numbers serve me correct, he's got 5 or 6 former players that are in the NFL, which is the most of all HBCUs. And so I don't know how he does it, right? He's not going out signing 3, 4, 5-star guys. He told me about Shaquille, who was Darius Leonard at the time. Told me about Shaquille. I don't know if he had any scholarship offers coming out. Redshirted his first year, was about 180 pounds, and really committed himself to doing the little things right and building his body, and obviously became, a high draft pick. And now, like I said, one of the top linebackers in the NFL. Same thing with Javon Hargreaves. Jacoby Durant walked on at South Carolina State, So again, they have it's something in the water, maybe up there in Orangeburg, that's gotten those guys to just play high-level football. But, he's a phenomenal coach. He knows what he's doing. He does it the right way. He's not going out trying to go toe-to-toe with everybody to beat out recruits. He's just getting good, solid, hard-nosed, tough football players to South Carolina State. And those guys believe in his system. They play extremely hard. They're very well coached and fundamentally sound. And they're going to be definitely a stiff challenge for us because we have to match their execution, their intensity, their enthusiasm, especially being that this is their first home game. They're going to be very excited to play at home. So we have our hands full. Had a great week of practice yesterday, a great day of practice yesterday, and we'll definitely need to put 3 more together this week to make sure that we go up there as prepared as we need to be to try to come back with a huge win for this program.
Coach, going back to kind of the growth of Jeremy and this offense and stuff, I mean, obviously he's new to the system, to this team, but how much is it just the offense looks better now due to time, due to him getting comfortable with the system, due to everybody getting comfortable with him? Is it all just kind of one big thing and now we're starting to see everything click the way that you knew it would?
I think it's a combination of all those things, much like last season. A part of coaching is understanding that every year is different. We lost Ryan Stanley in 2019, the school's all-time leading passer, and in comes Rashawn McKay. Well, they're different players. So we had to cater an offense that took advantage of Rashawn's strengths and minimized his weaknesses. And we did that to the tune of 9 wins last year. Well, Rashawn's battling some injuries right now, and he's not with us. And Jeremy got the nod to be the starting quarterback. Well, 2 totally different quarterbacks. Jeremy has a certain skill set. And so starting out, I think we were very similar schematically to what we were doing last year. And he didn't flourish under that system. Different offensive line, different running backs, and different quarterback. Much of the same wide receivers, but other places we were different. And so over the last couple of weeks, really starting the second half of the game against Alabama A&M, we made the decision to kind of go in a different direction schematically. And it's worked out well for us. He's a lot more comfortable now. And I think that's what we need to be moving forward. And so the more he settles into that comfort zone, the more the offensive line gets comfortable with him, the more he and the receivers get on the same page, I think we'll have a chance to really have a dynamic offense. We have some really good players that obviously we've seen that over the last few weeks. And we can find a way to establish a solid ground game. I think this offense is really hard to defend. So, but he's the catalyst. He drives the car. And when he's playing well, typically we're going to perform on that side of the ball. So great to see his continued growth. And looking forward to seeing how much better he can get over the next few games.
Coach, you mentioned the 50-50 balls, and considering South Carolina State's size in the secondary, how do you kind of practice for and prepare for just the size? I mean, the number 1 receiver is 6'5", and dude's a problem. He's tearing up Jackson State, and he gave University of South Carolina hell. But how do we prepare our secondary for that size and the potential mismatch there that we're going to face against them and the tall receivers in general?
Well, you have to have a plan. You know, it's probably going to be tough to cover them with one guy. You know, BJ Bowler's a fiery, competitive guy, but he's giving up about 10 inches, 9 or 10 inches on Shaq Davis. And so, again, he's got his hands full. You know, the other side, Courtney Cox is 5'11". Well, he's giving up about 6 inches, right? Same thing with Kendall Bowler. Winston Frazier's 6'3", you know, so he'll be able to compete with him if he's good to go. But you have to have a plan for him. You know, he's a really good player, and you know, he's a pro prospect, and he's going to be definitely a challenge for this defense to be able to contain them. And so we have to identify what their really good players are. We have to identify how and when they're going to try to get them the ball and have a plan for it. You know, and again, you're probably not going to be able to cover that guy one-on-one the entire game, you know, or he can potentially, you know, hurt you in a lot of ways. And but we feel confident that we have a lot of guys like that too. You know, don't know if anyone's shown that they can, you know, cover Xavier Smith one-on-one. He's not 6'5", but he's a really good player. He's averaging eight and a half catches a game right now. So definitely have to, you know, part of football is identifying who the other team's best players are and having a plan to neutralize them. So Coach Smith and his staff on the defensive side will definitely have a plan. We got to make that plan work, because if not, he can definitely hurt us. And him having a big game is detrimental to our overall success.
Coach, just wanted to do the player check-in. How many are we looking at this week that you're still looking to get in compliance with the NCAA?
Well, we had a few guys that we were able to utilize last week, and so as of right now, there are really 2 guys that we're still waiting on word, that currently have waivers out, and there are a handful of other guys that we have to submit waivers for, you know, for internal. And so as far as the quote unquote eligibility piece, none of the guys that we've dealt with so far are for that. Now there are a couple of guys now that we have that are academically ineligible that we may submit waivers to see if they can get relief. But as far as the guys, the transfers that we were waiting on, there's only 2 left. Any other questions?
Appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you all. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it, Coach.